Good morning, everyone. Scooter coming to you live from the Granville Guitars World Headquarters here in lovely St. Petersburg, Florida. Got a big project coming up over the next week or so. Our good friend Mr. Alex Webster, bass player for Cannibal Corpse, has left 4 of his touring instruments with us to do some upgrading, modifications, general replacement of some things. There are 4 basses in total. They're all Euro 5 strings. 3 of them are signature models of his, including this one here that you're looking at right now. We're going to change out some electronics in a few of them. One of them is going to receive an 18-volt battery box. There's some Darkglass Electronics going in to 2 of them, I think. At least 1, if not 2. Alex is a Darkglass Preamp user, and several of these will also be getting his Seymour Duncan Alex Webster pickups, signature pickups. This one obviously already has them. This particular bass is, as we can see on the case, the prototype of his signature bass guitar. We've done videos with Alex's stuff before. This one's going to be just a little more extensive, a little more detailed. This particular bass, I think I might have mentioned in the other video, I had to do some repairs to the inlays. It might have been this one. These inlays look pretty good. I think these are the ones. These are not the ones I had to repair. Anyway, so yeah, here's the main signature prototype without the blood on it. And back here in our morgue area, you're going to see the other 3 of Alex's basses that we're going to work on. The gray one is a Euro 5 that he's had for a while, quite a while, since before he had a signature model. He's done a lot of recording with it. That one is the one that's going to get the 18-volt battery box. This one is one of his signature models with the blood on it, black with red. This was a prototype for the Zombie Blood bass, which is the black blood on a red bass. And that one there already has Duncans in it, and this one has Duncans in it. So it looks like the gray one is the only one getting his signature Duncan pickups. I'll have to look at my notes that he's forwarded to me to know exactly what I'm doing here. But as you can see, the Zombie Blood bass has the speed ramp that was made for him, which goes in between the pickups and gives you a place to rest your thumb while your fingers are doing, or at least gives Alex a place to rest his thumb while his fingers are doing what Alex's fingers do, which is, you know, that's all you need to say. This bass here typically has one. I have removed it. Here it is right here. And I'm going to make 2 more of these to go on the 2 basses that don't have them. These were made out of ebony, and I'm not somebody that Alex knows, a luthier that he knows in the Northwest somewhere, is the guy that made these for him, and he did an absolutely exquisite job. You can see the string wear on it just from the last few years. Cannibal tours incessantly, so it's getting its workout. This one here, you can see, got cracked somewhere along the way, likely from temperature and humidity changes. Ebony is a fine material to use for this sort of thing, but for Alex's purposes, probably a little more fragile than he needs. So I'm going to make some out of poplar and sand those off and stain them black in the hopes that that will be somewhat more durable for him to use. in that situation. So if this kind of thing interests you, stay tuned, because we're gonna have a little wade through the world of Alex Webster's basses. Stay tuned. Alright, decided to start with the battery box on the gray bass. This is going to be a little bit of woodworking, obviously. Done some careful measurements of where the 18-volt box is on Alex's other basses. So I can pull this up here one-handed. There we go. And this is the hole I have to make. As you can see, it's quite deep. But it does fit. And I have made careful measurements of the actual physical size of this thing and the actual physical size of the replacement part, which is actually slightly larger than the ones that are in these basses. I'm glad I didn't rely on that. And I've laid out the location and made some score lines to show me what I need to end up with here. So yeah, I'm going to make a hole in this bad boy, and that way when Cannibal is on the road, and they're usually on the road, make battery changes in his basses much speedier, less problematic. So that's what we're doing right now. I'm gonna gouge out a hole in this bass. Stay tuned. Alright, we're on to the gray bass now. I've decided, since I'm going to get the router out and do some routing on this thing, I was reading Alex's instructions, and the gray bass is getting new signature pickups, Seymour Duncan Alex Webster signature pickups. It's also getting a new Darkglass preamp. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to just take all the electronics out. Now, look at this stuff, folks. This preamp has not been in there that long. I put it in myself maybe 2 years ago. This gives you an idea of the conditions that that Cannibal tours in and that Alex has to work in. He just sweats like crazy, and it just corrodes the living daylights out of anything in a hurry. And it collects because, you know, they'll do a show, the stuff gets thrown away into road cases, the instruments go into road cases, and then they move into trucks, which get hot and cold depending on where they are, and you know, it's just really hard on gear. With a more localized touring musician, don't see this behavior, although we're in Florida, so we see quite a bit of corrosion here. But in Alex's case, being that he's a world traveler and their touring is punishing on instruments, to say the least, let alone people, we just replace stuff. As soon as something develops a little tick, as soon as a jack develops a little, you know, inconsistency here and there, we don't mess around. It just comes out. You know, jacks are inexpensive. Stage time is very expensive, and Alex cannot afford for his instruments to be down for any length of time when he expects them to be running for that time that they're on stage. So it has to be reliable. Now let's real quick flip this bad boy over, and I will show you what we got going on back here. As we can see, I've started on the cut for the battery box. I've drilled out a hole in the center, which is the correct depth of, I believe it's 36.5 millimeters. And I'm going to get the router out and do that, but I needed to take the control plate off to make room for the router. So in the meanwhile, I thought, well, this stuff's all coming out, so we're just going to take it all out. All of it's coming out. It's getting a new Darkglass preamp. It's getting a new jack, and everything's coming out. So yeah, that's where this one is at right now. Okay, I've got my battery box ditch dug here. It's a fair amount of work. You have to sneak up on it, obviously. You want to route it carefully to get it to the right depth. Then you want to bevel the edges afterwards, and I'm probably going to seal those with a little bit of super glue just to keep the finish from splitting. And then I'm going to also finish down inside the cavity here. But here is our good friend the Goto battery box, the old standby. Everybody seems to use them. I kind of wish they'd build a better mousetrap, frankly. Something made out of metal. Something like what ESP uses. Anyway, this is what we have. So this is what we're using. As you can see, it sucker goes right down in there. I have to drill for these holes. And we'll have the battery holders here for the two 9-volt batteries. Just like Alex's other bases, in exactly the same place that all his other bases have them. So it'll kind of bring this gray base up to speed. Now I've also been working today on the speed ramps, and I'll just show you here. Pan out some. This one right here is one of the original speed ramps that Alex had made. Very nice craftsmanship. It has a nice radius to fit the arch top of the base on the underside, and a radius on top for comfort. As you can see, this piece of wood here, this is a piece of poplar that is going to be a new speed ramp, and it's just been rough cut, slightly oversized. This one right here has just had its first coat of stain and poly, and it's a little bit shiny and a little bit rough right now, but I'm going to coat it a couple of more times with black stain and poly, and it should get nice and black, very deep into the wood, so the color shouldn't wear off, and that poly coat should stay pretty well embedded in the wood. Also here we have Alex's requirements for his bases here. You can see the black blood base, which is the black one with the red blood. That's a G-sharp tuning, and here are the notes in case you are interested in those tunings. On his black base with the red blood, we're using the G-sharp tuning, which is G-sharp, C-sharp, F-sharp, B, and E. The red base, which is red with the zombie blood, the black blood on it, A-sharp, D-sharp, G-sharp, C-sharp, F-sharp. The black bass, the prototype, that's an Alex Webster bass with no blood, that is also an A-sharp bass. This bass right here is the gray stain bass, and that's a G-sharp instrument. We're going to use DR high beams gauged 125 to 145 on all 4 of these basses. So there you go. For those of you who want that information, here it is in this video. Those are the gauges Alex uses, and those are the gauges that are going to get on here. Now, as you can see, there's some damage down there that I'm not going to fix. That's road wear from a case that they used to have. This right in here, these extremely deep gouges. Alex couldn't figure out what was happening, and it turned out to be the road case they were using at the time. It was a coffin style case, and it was causing these to get several of his basses have that exact same mark pattern on them. But we're just going to leave that. That can be repaired, but it would take more time than I've got. So we're just going to leave it for now. Anyway, there we go. Battery boxes are installed, and I'm going to finish this hole and carry on. Okay, we're carrying on from yesterday with Alex Webster's gray stain Euro 5. This is bass he's had for quite some time, and up to now it's had EMG preamp and pickups in it, which we've removed. We've added the battery box, and we're getting ready to go with the preamp. Now he uses Darkglass Electronics. There they are right there. He uses the tone capsule, and this is the new tone capsule right here. This is how they're coming. and it's slightly different to the old one in that it comes pre-wired with a bass and 2 mid bands. Previously we've been wiring these up for him where the 2 mid controls, the high mid and low mid, which are these 2 right here, you can see that designated high mid and low mid there on the bottom of the pots, or on the bottom of these PCBs right there. These were on a concentric pot stacked on one another. We're going to do these separately on the 2 bases that we're wiring up for him with new tone capsules. And the way we're going to do this, previously he's had master volume, blend pot, bass and treble stacked, and either a mid control or a mid with a stack right here. So he's had 2 stacks. The new way we're going to do this, since I got Alex on the phone today and chatted with him about this, and he told me that he never ever uses the blend pot. He sets it in the middle and leaves it. So we're eliminating the blend pot altogether. We're going to leave the master volume where it was, so he's used to that. This will become high mid, this will become low mid, and this will become bass. All single pots, no concentric pots whatsoever. This will lessen the chance for failures out in the field. Single pots are a little more durable, it can handle a little more abuse, a little less to go wrong. And that can make a difference when you tour hard and heavy the way Cannibal Corpse does. So that's what we're doing on the gray bass next. Preamps going in, pickups are going in. Here are the pickups from our good friends over at Seymour Duncan. These are the Seymour Duncan Hammer Smashed Alex Webster signature model pickups, and you can see Alex's name right there. And this is the bridge where it says, you can see where it says Hammer Smashed B. So this will be going into the bridge position on this guitar. And we've got the neck hammer smashed as well, and it'll be going in there. So stand by, we're going to install this preamp and pickups. Okay, here we are. It's all installed, it's all functioning. Let's zoom in here a little bit and we can see what's going on here. There is the Darkglass preamp, securely velcroed out of the way there. You can see the terminus right there with all these connections screwed in. That's a solderless arrangement. And you can see that I've used a piece of shielded wire for the input, which is this connection here, and also the ground, which is this one here. On the bottom is the output from the volume control, and right here is the 9-volt wire. And I've soldered all 3 wires to that one terminal, the 2 pickups and also the power for the preamp. Swinging over here, this pot, as we mentioned, is for the high mid control. This one is for the low mid control. This one over here is for bass. And got a brand new Switchcraft barrel jack here, and it's grounded like this. I like to use solid core bus wire in a lot of these cases. I think it does a better job. It stays put. Doesn't monkey around much when it's soldered in properly. It does the job very, very nicely. So that's it right there for the inside of the cavity. Let me get a better angle here, and we will flip the base over. I haven't strung it up yet, but I did tap test the pickups and everything works, which is a good thing. You can see we have our Hammer Smashed Alex Webster Seymour Duncan pickups installed, the neck and the bridge. And I've presently installed these old school Spector knobs here. Remains to be seen as to whether Alex will leave those in place. Since it does not have an EMG preamp anymore, I felt that it was kind of weird to have EMG knobs, and it doesn't need stack knobs anymore, so that kind of returns it to, you know, some of its heritage, I think. But we'll see. Those may or may not stay. You may or may not see those on the upcoming tour this fall with Hate Eternal. There you go. Pickups are installed. All I need to do now is throw some strings on this bad boy and set the intonation, and the work on the gray bass will be complete. Alright, here we are. We're all done with Alex Webster's gray flame, transparent gray Euro 5. This was one of his earliest Spectors. He's had it for a while. He's done a lot of recording with it, and he still tours with it. One thing I neglected to mention in the last section is the speed ramp that we've added to the bass, which is that piece of wood right there that lives right between the two pickups. And it's a thumb rest of sorts, but it also gives the fingers a nice place to sit as well. So it's just, when you're down here, the thumb can rest here, and then it can rest here, and it just makes it more comfortable overall if you don't have this, you know, canyon in between the two strings. So that just makes it nifty. Much more easily played at high speed, the way Alex does. I've added the speed ramp to 2 of the 4 basses that I have in the shop. The other 2 already had them, so on the next tour, all 4 of his basses will have a speed ramp installed. And we're making all the electronics consistent as well. We've decided to put these tone capsules in all 4 of his touring basses so that they will be consistent. Now, let's talk about the strings. DR high beams. 45 or 125 on the bottom and 45 on the top. This particular bass is tuned, let's turn up the volume here, G sharp on the bottom, C sharp, F sharp, B, and E on top. So there you go. There's Alex's tuning. There are the strings that he uses. That set of 125 through 45. Let's look at the preamp just a little bit. Not sure how much you're going to be able to hear on my little camera microphone. I didn't set up the good mics, but so we have master volume right there. No balance control. Both pickups are hardwired to the volume control, so they're both on at all times. That's the way he's always used it. He's never ever touched it, so we just did away with the balance control. The EQ is high mid right here. Cut and boost. Okay, and then low mid up here. Also cut and boost. And then there's a bass control right here, cut and boost. There's a lot of low end there. That'll make them pay attention. Here it is rolled off. So there you go. That's the gray bass. Again, Darkglass Tone Capsule preamp. Seymour Duncan, Alex Webster Hammer Smashed pickups, DR strings, gauged 125 to 45, and the tuning is G sharp, C sharp, F sharp, B, and E. In terms of how I set Alex's basses up, we set the necks pretty straight to start with. Sometimes they have to get messed with during the tour as they travel to different climates, and you know, necks need adjusting, etc. But I tend to, when they're on my bench, I set the necks pretty close to straight. The way I measure his string heights is I will place a capo down here at the very first fret, and then I measure the height of, or the space rather, underneath each string. In Alex's case, we end up with right around 50 thousandths underneath each of the strings with the first fret capoed. So if you fret right over that, you can see that's, you know, it's not too low, it's not too high, it's right in the middle of what I would call a suitable action. He plays pretty fast and with a fair degree of force, but he likes to be able to finesse it sometimes too. So there you go. It's a combination of both of those attitudes. That's all I have for part one of this. This is going to be a 4-part series on Alex Webster's touring basses. Once again, this is I'm calling this bass the Gray Ghost, and it's quite a monster. It might be my favorite bass that he owns. It's just really, really nice looking. Not that the other ones aren't, but it's just got something about it tonally that the other ones don't quite have to my ear. But anyway, they all sound great, and obviously Alex knows how to play them. So that's all I got for the Spector Euro 5 Gray Ghost, owned by Alex Webster. If you have any questions about anything we do here at Granville Guitars, seek us out on the web at www.granvilleguitars.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram, and our blog over at WordPress, A View from the Granville Bench. That's all I know for now. Have a metal kind of day.